Hello everyone, how are you? It's Thursday today, so we're just rocking the casual hoodie, but something's come up recently, huge, in my opinion, big, and that's the recent Reddit thing. Now, I know a lot of people who watch my channel also visit Reddit, but not everyone, so let me explain real quick. Right now, there are two big subreddits for Overwatch. There's r/Overwatch, which is the big one. It's one of the biggest subreddits on the site, actually. It has 700,000, over 700,000 subscribers. And then there's r/competitiveOverwatch, which is not as big, but still very, very much alive. It has almost 100,000 subscribers. And so these two have coexisted for a pretty, I mean, the game hasn't been out that long, right? But basically our Overwatch is for people who are just like enjoying the game. There's lots of clips of like funny plays and jokes and fan art, and there's discussion whenever there's a new patch comes out. There's usually a balanced discussion on that. There's discussion on any new heroes that comes out, so there's discussion on like the news and stuff. But then there's r/competitiveOverwatch, which is, like I said, a bit smaller but still very much alive. It talks about tournaments that's going on, esports, some more like strategy, detailed parts of the game, what players are doing what teams are doing what, drama between professional players, stuff like that. So anyway, people are a bit upset that on the big subreddit, the 700K one, people don't talk very much about esports. There's really no discussion of tournaments. There's no discussion of pro players or teams. Even when the Miami Heat picked up a team, even when all these big sports clubs are picking up teams, which was exciting news for competitive Overwatch, it wasn't really necessarily in the main sub. So people are a bit frustrated at that because they enjoy esports. They're not seeing it on the main subreddit. And then they look at other games like CSGO, like r/Global Offensive, Counter-Strike, and that subreddit has, esports stuff and all of that stuff. So people are a bit jealous. They forget that that's a 15-year-old game. But anyway, so recently there was a petition started. Here it is. Basically, it says that there are too many GIFs and clips and stuff on the subreddit's front page and not enough discussion. There is discussion, but I guess it's just not the discussion that they like. And you can see about 1,500 people have signed it so far, which is really, in the grand scheme of things, almost nobody. And although it's worded very nicely and politely most of the time, it's basically, we don't like what you have on the front page now, and we want more of our stuff, which is, fine. And this thing was basically put out by Monte, a big analyst right now, and it was supported by like everyone, every single pro org and player that I saw basically retweeted this. That being said, remember, 1,500. We're talking about a subreddit with 700,000 people. Even our competitive Overwatch has 100,000 people, and only 1,500 people signed this. So just keep all the numbers, just to put all the numbers in perspective for you. Now, to absolutely no objective person's surprise whatsoever, there is a response thread essentially on the main Overwatch subreddit that it's titled Monte Cristo is attempting to pressure our Overwatch and be more strict on content, and there is a pretty big backlash. People were not very happy with the petition. I mean, obviously, 1,000 people come in on 700,000 people and start saying, oh, you guys are low quality and you just post garbage and we want to see more discussion, probably would make a few people upset. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is, what does this do? What's the result? This is one of, I'm going to say it right up front, this is one of the worst things that could ever happen to esports Overwatch. One of the worst things, if not the individual, this is actually the one single worst thing. Blizzard putting out a bad balance patch, Blizzard being late with Overwatch League, being lack of tournaments. No. This is the number one worst thing that could ever happen to Overwatch esports, because what it's done is it has really drawn the line in the sand. There has been a line, and it has been drawn yesterday, I guess. It has been drawn absolutely of, we are the competitive people and we are the casual people. And that line was always kind of there because, there were lots of these boys clubs sort of things, discords where they were very oh, if you're not a cool person, if you're not into competitive Overwatch, then we don't want you in. But this drew the line officially. So now, when what was supposed to be, if the Overleague comes out, or if the Overwatch League comes out, or another big tournament comes out, these casual players casual players, I'm just going to call them that, right? Just the regular, I'm going to call them regular players, actually. Regular players who see the tournament, they're going to think, oh, that's not for me because that's for those competitive Overwatch guys. I don't want to do that. And polarizing the community like this is going to have a lot of negative consequences. And you can see all of the sentiments that have been building up and building and building and building come out just today because nobody is treating this rationally from either side. There's so much dehumanization going on. I mean, look, there's so many comments on our competitive Overwatch saying like, oh, you know, you see that thread over at ROW, like that thread, it's impossible to have a discussion. They're like all children. They just like bad stuff. And then in the R Overwatch thread, they're saying like, oh, well, the competitive Overwatch people, they're just this group of people who think they're cool, and I don't want to deal with that. They're just too hardcore and they're jerks because they look down on everyone else. I mean, people don't even read, like no one's even reading this stuff. Literally, people are just reading it through their like own polarized glasses. I mean, Harsha, like bless his heart, but Harsha put up a video where he didn't even get the title right. Like he was talking about the thread in our Overwatch and saying how whatever it was, but he was talking about the title, and here's what he said.
The letter got posted onto r/Overwatch, and I expected this to happen, but what I did not expect to happen was, how do I put this? It was just completely riddled with bias. It was just insane. Like the title of the self-post itself was called Monte is trying to pressure the Overwatch subreddit into like having more esports content or something ridiculous like that. And
the thing is, that's not actually the title. Like, just read it. Just read the title. Read what these people are saying on both sides. And like, I don't want to single him out. It's just the perfect example. Like, you make a 10-minute video all based around the wrong title. Like I said, not singling him out. Just an example. Because as you can see, there are thousands of comments. It's not just one person. It's everyone. Well, not everyone, but it's a lot of people. You know, you can go through these comments and you can see 100 different I hate our Overwatch people, like, and 100 different I hate our competitive Overwatch people. And it's just all dehumanization, all not reading what they're actually saying, people just assuming that everyone else is like stupid or a child or something. So anyway, that's what happened. It's a mess. I think it's the worst thing that's happened ever in all of Overwatch's short history in terms of Overwatch esports. Guys, and I don't think anyone's wrong. Like, I'm not going to say, oh, Monte Cristo, you're a terrible person for making this bad petition. Like, yeah, it was a mistake, but everyone is well intentioned here. Like, everyone wants what's best for the game. And that's so sad when you see everyone arguing over it. It's just that people get impatient, right? They see Counter-Strike. That's a 15-year-old game. Like, we're not going to beat Counter-Strike in 6 months when they've had 15 years. I know people say, oh, well, it's a new age for esports. It shouldn't take that long. But still, it needs to build. And you can't make an esport by just forcing it and shoving it down people's throats and just pouring money into it. We've seen that happen before, and it never works. What you have to do is it has to be an organic thing. You have to get people excited about the game. Our Overwatch is great because it shows clips, it gets people into the game. As long as people are having fun, as long as people are passionate about the game, they will eventually get into esports and stuff if they want. I grew up, I was 8 years old, I was playing Starcraft, so I grew up with this stuff. Okay? And I know people say it's not like it used to be. You're an old guy, you're outdated. Esports has evolved. Well, no, it hasn't. It really hasn't. Because I remember people were really bad at the game back then. I was playing when I was 12. Warcraft 3 came out when I was in 4th grade. I was playing that a ton, and people were just bad. People were bad. I remember the first commentaries coming out when on YouTube, like when I was around 13 years old or so. I watched those all the time, and they were so cool. But I thought they were cool because I really liked the game, and then I eventually grew into watching that stuff, and that's how it works. So as long as the game is good and people are having fun, that's all you need. And then you need to be positive about it, right? I made an analysis video yesterday of Cloud9 versus Afrika Blue. I thought it was a good video. I thought it was a great game. I mean, it was a really, really close game. First, Cloud9 got really far behind, then they came all the way back, and then there were these two very, very close rounds that went down to overtime, and just barely in the last second, this big climactic thing, Freaka Blue wound up winning. That was such a good, entertaining game. That was really good. But in the comments, there were so many people saying, oh, this game was actually bad. Like, this game was terrible. Cloud9 was awful. There were so many mistakes, blah, blah, blah. You go to the discussion thread in our competitive Overwatch, people say, oh yeah, the teams played so bad. It was so bad. Like, they're professional teams. And the game was very close. And it's in the biggest tournament at the moment. You can't just say the game was bad. Like, sure, you can nitpick out the mistakes, but you can't expect them to be Jaedong, who's been playing Starcraft for 12 years. You can't expect them to be like, Counter-Strike. You can't expect them to be nothing, from Counter-Strike, who's been playing he's been playing a 15-year-old game since he was like 12. You can't expect them to be perfect. So you're always going to be able to nitpick mistakes. I can nitpick mistakes out of Starcraft 2 matches, and that game is old as my grandma, right? The fact is, just enjoy it for what it is, right? They're professional teams playing at the highest level for a lot of money in the biggest tournament. Imagine this. I like watching lacrosse. I think it's kind of cool. Most people don't watch lacrosse, so I think this is a good example. If I were to come up to you and say, hey, let's say we were friends, right? I came up to you and was like, oh, hey, you never watched lacrosse before. The NCAA tournament finals are on right now. Syracuse is playing. They're so good. You should see these guys. They're awesome. Like, this game is so close, so good. You can be like, okay, well, yeah, let's go check it out. Maybe you'll be interested. But if I say, oh, hey, the NCAA finals are on. Syracuse is playing. It's terrible. Those teams are so bad. Like, they're not even playing very well. You'd be like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. You're not gonna watch it, right? You're not gonna watch it. So I think that just people are so they mean so well, but they're just so impatient. They're getting frustrated, which I can understand, because they want to be like all these other games. They want to see these epic stories and stuff, and they want it right now. And so that frustration leads to negativity. The negativity means that people don't want to come because they see the negativity, which leads to more frustration because the numbers aren't growing, which means you're more negative, and it's this vicious circle that will eventually kill the game. It will. I've seen one of my favorite games of all time, Heroes of Newerth, was the original Dota 2, basically. Ice Frog originally worked on that game. It was big. It was the biggest MOBA. It was the biggest MOBA. It was beating out League for a little bit, and then it just died. And it died because the community killed itself. Like, the community was so frustrated. They were so self-conscious. They're like, oh, Dota 2 is coming out. What if they kill it? What if Dota 2 kills us? Oh, League of Legends is getting more numbers. Oh no, what if people play that game instead? And it was just, it was boiling. And the negativity eventually got to the point where people didn't want to play anymore, because people would come and they saw all of these self-hating people who just would be negative, and they would spout all this hate about the game and hate about the company, even though the company was so good. The studio, rather, that was making the game. Eventually, the game just died. So I know that not a lot of people know about that game. I mean, it was a really big game, but you can just see how negativity really kills it. So I have a very personal experience with this. Very personal experience. And you can see the same thing happen to StarCraft, too. StarCraft, that game went downhill because people were so negative and people didn't want to play anymore. Yeah, you can say there's barrier of entry to that game. Blizzard did some things that were wrong, but that's another community that killed themselves, right? So just let's not have the same thing happen to Overwatch. Let's not kill ourselves over all this frustration and negativity. We want the numbers to be bigger, blah, blah, blah. You're not an esports business. You're not an esports corporation. Let them worry about the numbers. You just need to worry about having fun, enjoying the game. And if you do that, other people will be attracted to it, and that'll be good. You can see on this channel, all I do is I just try to show people how cool the game is, how I like the game, how fun I think it is. And I think that I'm seeing that, look at my last analysis. You had, like I said, there were the people who were like, I hate, this game is bad or whatever. But there were actually a good number of people who said, wow, I didn't know that Pro Overwatch was this cool. This actually makes me want to play Overwatch now. This makes me want to watch Overwatch now. Wow, that's really cool, Sky. I didn't even know it was that cool. So I'm rambling on. Just never forget to stay positive. I say that after every video. Never forget to stay positive, guys. And I know it's a big thing. This is going to be an issue. People are going to be upset. There's going to be bitterness over the competitive community and the casual community, but it can still be fixed if we just all act normal. Act normal, guys. Just act normal. If you are a regular player, don't hate on the esports side of things. If you're an esports competitive player, don't hate on the regular side of things. Everyone likes the game. Dumpling likes the game. So why don't we just all be friends? And let the business people do the business stuff. That's not your concern. A comment that I really, really like by Mike Spam, he kind of shares my same view of the topic, but he puts it very well. He says, instead of forcing a massive cultural shift from like an 800,000 member community who doesn't want it, you have to plant the seeds of cultural growth. That's perfect. That's exactly the correct message, because and like I said, being positive, being happy, enjoying the game, showing it off to your friends, that's the best way to plant the seeds of cultural change. Thank you everyone for listening. I hope that this whole debacle showed that the best way to get people into tournaments and stuff is to just have them be super fun and have people naturally want to. You can't force people. It just alienates them further. Anyway, guys, never forget to stay positive and have a great day. Peace out.